Okay. Share my screen. Chrome. Okay. Can everyone see my screen clearly with the text on it?
Yep.
Okay. So, since we covered quite a bit with previous homeworks, this lab will mostly focusing on the brushing side of D3 because we haven't really done any of brushing in the previous homeworks. But besides that, I think the homework asks you to like do transitions and drawing tables with bar chart in it, which is pretty similar to homework 5. So yeah, so we're mostly gonna cover about brushes today. First, we're gonna go through how to have multiple one-dimensional brushes set up. So this is what it does. It allows you to draw a one-dimensional brush no matter where your mouse is at for this rectangle. But you can't draw it here. But if you draw it on a different rectangle, it will clear out this brush, similar here. So we're gonna go through the code that did this. First, we have a SVG, and we appended 3 G elements to it, and we did a transform so that they have some distance between each other, and we gave them a class called 1D brushes. And then we just appended 3 rectangles to it so that you can actually see the area for it. So for each rectangle, we have a height and a width we defined. And then here is where the attaching the brush is happening. So we selected all the G elements from this code above, and we did a dot each, which is a way to you can loop through the selections. So we're looping through all of the G elements, and then for each of this we're gonna select. So D3.select this is inside this function will give you the actual like the element here. So we're gonna do a selection here, and we define a brush. This is where we define the brush. We use D3.brushY. So there's brush parentheses, which is a 2-dimensional brush, will let you brush like a rectangle. Brush X which helps you to do a horizontal brush, and brush Y does the vertical brush. So we use brush Y here, and then dot extent tells it how far and wide the brush goes. So here we define it to be 0, 0, which is the left upper corner, and rectangle width and the height to define the right lower corner. So this gives you, this is 0, 0, and then this right lower corner is the rectangle width and height. And then on start is where we start to brush this, and then we don't really need anything else, so we're only gonna do on start here, but later you will see we'll use start and brush and end. So here we're only gonna do on start, so this is why you start to brush, like the moment you start to brush. And then here we're gonna see what is the active brush. So we're gonna ignore this for now, but you see that we have a we define the active brush to be this brush, and then we define the active brush node to be the selection here. And then this will help us to keep track of what is currently being brushed. And then we are gonna apply this to be the we're gonna apply this using .call, and then we're gonna return the selection. And then this basically gave you what this does here. And then to clear it is where the if statement happens. So if there is an active brush right now, so this is an active brush, and then if the selection, which is this current selection here, is not what is the active brush node, which is, so for example, if you try to brush the second rectangle, the active brush is this one, and then the active brush node is the first rectangle. So that means it's not the it's not this one. So it's gonna have the active brush node call the active brush and then have it to be null. So it's just gonna remove that brush. So That's what handles like try to change the brush of different grouping element here. Any questions for the first example here?
So those dimensions you're in that definition, those are the maximum extent of the brush, not the actual brushed area.
Exactly. So let's just for demonstration, I'm gonna change this so that you can actually see what goes in here. So if let's do like height minus like 20, and then I'm gonna run this. So you can see that it left a little bit. So that's where we define the 10 at. And then if we try to brush all the way down, it will finish before it actually reach the end, which is height minus 20. So this is where the 20 is at. So
got it.
So that's what the extent does. And you can't actually move this. So if you have this, like you can move this as long as it's like within the extent of it. But if you draw the whole thing and you just like, it limits you to the extent.
I'll say, and that's a function of the brush, not the container that it happens to be in.
Right. But okay, if you don't define the extent, I think it goes with the whole thing. Like if you don't define it, it will just use the entire possible area, which we're gonna use. Yeah, which we're gonna use in the next example. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's how you set up multiple brushes. Better to run this, make sure it actually works. Okay, so here I'm gonna show how you can use the brush and try to find what is in there and then update another visualization based on it. So before I start this, just for the setup, I have a scatter plot here, and then it allows you to brush on it, and you can see that the chart below updates based on the brush. So I can remove it. And then just for clarity, also I added a text to show that like what is currently being selected, and it's gonna update this text. Okay, so this is a setup, and we're gonna go through the code here. Actually, let's go through the simple ones first. So like this one just has an SVG set it up, and I appended the axes, and I appended one G element called brush dots, which is gonna be the container for all the circles, but I haven't added anything yet. Same here, I just made a div that doesn't have, like, that's called selection output as its ID, and the text within it is just called selection no brush. So this is the setup, the simple part. Okay, so the big part is this. So we create an SVG per usual. We set up like what is viewable. Create SVG, I think, is like using observable. But I'm pretty sure you know how to create SVGs now. And then I'm gonna append one G element as we did above, and I gave it an ID called brush layer. And then I'm gonna call the D3 brush. So this time we're gonna use a 2-dimensional brush. And then this time we're gonna do start brush end. So like this brush function is gonna be called, like, from the start you click down, and then this whole brush animation end when you end it. So it's just gonna keep calling this brush function. So the brush function is defined below here. Should I go through that? Okay, so let's go through this part first. We just set up the axes, and then I appended another G element, and I select all the circles, and I bind the data, join circle, and then this filter just makes sure that we're only drawing the things that has a body mass G data for it. And then
what's in the data? Just that list of points?
Yes. So it's here. So this is the data. I think it's penguins. And then okay. Yeah, so we're just using I think using these two numbers. So yeah, okay. That's the data setup.
Right.
And then so we're gonna use, oh, where am I? Here. So we're gonna use that data. And then we draw a circle filter. Yeah, okay. And we define the location and the Y location and the radius for it. So now we're down to the brush part. First I'm gonna have an empty array. And you'll see why we need that later. And then first we want to reset all the dots, because without this, I'm gonna comment this out, and you'll see why we run this. So if we don't reset it, this is what's gonna happen, is that it doesn't, when you do a new brush, it doesn't reset the rest of the circles. So very important that you want to first reset everything each time you call this function. And if there is a selection being passed in, so this function expects a object, and this syntax lets us to use only the selection, the value with the selection key in it, and we're going to call it selection. So if there is a selection, and the selection is the brush, the brush has a, the selection has a two paired arrays, which is the coordinates for it. The x0 and y0 is the upper left coordinate, and the x1 and y1 is the lower right coordinate. So this syntax lets us to just use these values directly from this selection variable. So we're going to define this, and we're going to need these values to see where the circles are. So we're going to use dot, which is defined above. Use dot and dot filter, which will let us to filter down the circles that are inside the brush. So we're gonna use a, this is X and Y is the scale that we set it up outside this function. We're gonna use the scale. We're gonna try to calculate where the X coordinate and the Y coordinates are for the circle. And then they need to be bigger than the left limit, but lower than the right limit. Same for the Y coordinate. We're gonna use the Y0 and Y1, and they need to be in between of the limit of the brush. So we're gonna filter down all the dots. Also, we did the filter, and then we're gonna apply a style for it. So we're gonna fill everything with steel blue. So this is the part where you see that when we do a brush, the dots within it is changing color. So that's the code part that handles it. And then we want to get the data out of it. So dot data will return the data of the selection here. I'm gonna assign it to value. And this is how we're gonna use, how we can update the other chart with the data from the brush. So we assign the value here, and then this is the part that update the other chart. So I'm gonna do a d3.select brush dots, which is the G layer for the other chart here. So you can see that we have brush dots here. So I did a select on it, and I selected all the circle, and I bind the data, drawing circle, and did all the attributes same as above. So that's how we get the other chart to draw exactly what is brushed here. And then to update the text, I did a D3 select output, which is the div I defined, and then just did .html, and then I used the data that we got from here. So that's how I set it up. I guess it's gonna be a quick lab, but questions?
Yeah, two questions. What
Yes.
happens if you start with a point and brush up and to the right?
What do you mean? So if I started like this?
Well, now do you always have to start at upper left and go lower right, or can you start lower left and go upper right?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what order. Will
Yes.
will the X0 and X1s always be upper left and lower right, or might they
That's
be where
correct.
you start and where you end?
It's always gonna be drawn as the upper left and lower right. So it doesn't matter how you draw your brush. The same as above this here. No matter what the direction you draw it, the coordinates that gets returned is always in that order.
Okay, good. The other one was that data at the end of your filter. That one. That naturally takes the data that's filtered. Huh? That's what that function does?
Yes. So the dot is the selection here. So we did, so the selection meaning the D3 selection that has all the visual elements in it. And dot filter will help you to filter down all the dots that actually fits this filter. The D is just I think the D is the data elements. And so we applied this because the brush is on the visual side, so we cannot do we need the conversion so that we actually know where the dots are. So the filter will filter down the selection, and then this basically returns as a selection, and then the style also returns a selection. So it doesn't matter if we have this or not. So like you can just not even have this, which gonna make it just not turn color, but it will still draw this because dot data returns the data.
It's interesting
that's binded.
That you use data to specify input for or binding for the functions, and then you also use it as a way of returning data that's been selected. So
yes. So when there is no input, it's gonna give you the data. When there is an input, it will bind the data. So it's what is it called? Like I forget what it's called, like in terms of programming, that you can have multiple functions that all have the same name, but when the input is different, it does different things.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think I'm pretty sure this you can even apply it with something like if you do dot attribute and you do X and you don't do anything like this. Of course you can't use it here, but if you do this, it's gonna return you the X coordinate of it. So like it's similar in that sense. That normally we just use it as like we do dot X and we assign like some number to it. But when you don't assign any numbers, I think it just returns what is being previously assigned.
Yeah, I think that's called overloading.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, thank you. That helped. I would not have had a clue what data did there in that context. That's first time I've seen it used as a return function.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, can we also ask questions that are not related to the brushing, but is related to the homework assignment?
Yes, but I probably need to longer time because I haven't looked at the homework, but let me see.
I just want to like ask like general questions.
Yeah, so let me get to the homework.
Sure.
Make sure I don't click the wrong thing. Okay.
You see for the percentages, there are like two rectangles. Should we like assign two SVGs to the table data below the percentage for doing this?
Can you say that again?
In the percentage column of the table, you see there are like two rectangles inside there. Should we append two SVGs? Because like
yes, because you can't have a rectangle that has two colors, so.
But you can put like two rectangles in the same SVG though.
Can we? Can we do that? Okay. So, I'm thinking that like, so consider that we are trying to make two rectangles. The x-axis of those will be like that's 0, right? The x of those rectangles would be 0. The line middle of the percentage.
Yeah, because they're all starting from the upper left corner, which is, well, no, X is not going to be 0. Y is going to be 0.
Oh.
Because you like a rectangle is always defined by this corner. which is gonna be the XY coordinate for it. And then you need a width and you need a height.
Right.
And then so for a rectangle like this one here, you're gonna need like this is not 0, and same as here, like this is not 0, but y is 0, x is not 0.
Y is 0. That makes
Because
sense.
y is starting from the upper above, like something like this is y should be 0, or if you define like a little margin.
Awesome, thank you. Also, like
I think this is probably not the best way to visualize it, because I think okay. I think there is a like y is 0, it still has a rectangle. Like I would not recommend you visualize 0. So just if you did the visualization, you're like, why is that little bit there? And I think it's because we didn't like I would not. Oh, I'm sorry. Like I think this homework, like this part should be 0 sometimes, and it has a little rectangle as a minimum for it. Like I would not recommend you do it. So it's okay if you did your visualization when it's percentage 0 and you're like, why do I not have a rectangle? I think that should be correct instead of having a tiny bit here. That's just something.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, can you please explain like how to make these rectangles to have those like that space between that space on the like on 0? Because
you don't want it.
We don't want
I'm saying
it?
like this is I would not do this. Like I say this is not a good practice.
Okay. So we want them to stick to like the red and blue stick to each other.
I mean, well, the space is correct. What I'm saying is that when the left percentage is 0, like when this blue part is 0 or the right part is 0, like sometimes I think it like this visualization, like right here, like I think it's when it's 0, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, it shouldn't show that. Bro, got that.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Also, can you please tell us like for the frequency we have like different colors? I think there are like based on some categories. The colors are based on some categories, which I don't know.
On the left. I think it's on the left. Like I'm pretty sure this color matches the left color. And I'm
okay, and how the left color? Sorry, I haven't done the bubble chart. I started from the table, so I'm kind of confused.
Oh, okay.
So this should matches the bubbles, right?
Yeah.
And how the like I think the bubbles are like different categories of the bubble has different color. I'm not sure if this is correct. Okay.
Well, otherwise I'm not sure how we are doing it. I'm pretty sure that's like it tells you what category it has.
Oh, this okay, the category inside here. Not based on the phrase, but based on the category. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Well, I think, but because I think the phrase, well, yeah, phrase is just one, like one circle.
Bubble. Okay, got that.
And then what I'm saying is that percentage, like I'm pretty sure we have 0% there, and that visualization never really visualized 0%. It has like tiny
rectangles. That's true.
Yeah, so I would recommend you not having that.
Not having that. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
No problem. Any other questions? well, this is a quick lab for me, I guess. And the homework is due next Friday. So I'm guessing a lot of you haven't started it probably, but yeah. And I'm gonna post homework 5 solution probably like right after this or tomorrow, so that you have like table part if you need like solution.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.